here with Jamil Zainasheff, the author, co-author, sorry, John Palmer, co-author of Brewing Classic Styles. I want to ask you, for people who either don't have the time, once they have a kid, or maybe they're new into the game, if you're extract brewing, can you tell me a few things beyond the recipes that will help somebody make better beer, that makes them like just really proud of that beer and want to kind of push forward? Whether they get in all grain or not isn't even important. It's like, how can we make better extract beer?
Use fresh ingredients. Make sure that you do a full wort boil, temperature control, pitch enough yeast, and make sure everything is properly cleaned and sanitized. That's all it takes to make great extract-based beer. Fresh ingredients is actually quite important. I had somebody bring me they're like, oh, I want you to taste my first beer I brewed. And I'm like, wow, you got to use fresh ingredients. They're like, oh yeah, I bought the kit, like 8 months ago, and it sat warm in the garage, and yeah, I just got around to brewing it. It's like, yeah, you can't do that. Start with fresh ingredients. There's lots of great homebrew suppliers out there providing you with great ingredients. Don't buy it until you're ready to brew it, and when you get it fresh and brew it, that weekend if you can, and if not, store it somewhere where the ingredients are maintained well. As far as, producing your wort, ideally you want a full wort boil. It really does help with the overall character of the beer. So you get yourself a large enough pot. You can do that with, a cheap enamel canning pot. You don't have to really go crazy on the cost of things, but it is important to get a full wort boil. And then temperature control. Control the temperature of your fermentation. Not, hey, the air conditioner's on in this room and the air conditioner is set to 68, so I'm fermenting at 68. You are not fermenting at 68. You're fermenting at a random number of temperatures. You need a probe attached to your fermentation vessel and controlled fermentation. That's huge. That's one of the biggest changes in the quality of beer is going to come from controlling your fermentation temperature, not the room temperature, the actual temperature of the beer as it ferments. And then sanitizing and cleaning. You need to make sure that you're properly cleaning the crud off of all the things that will come in contact, and sanitizing. If you don't clean properly, you can't sanitize. Can't sanitize a turd. So you have to make sure that you're properly cleaning things first, because the amount of infections that you taste in beer, people start out pretty high. If you do those fundamental things, you'll make great beer. Pitch enough yeast. People, don't cheap out on the yeast. Make sure you're pitching enough and it's healthy yeast. Get it fresh. Pitch it fresh. And those things, you can make great beer. That's award-winning beer if you do those things. Focus on those. Don't focus on all the other little timing of things in the wort boil. Making wort is the easiest part of brewing.
Fermenting wort,
that's where the challenge comes in.
Let me throw this out there. Since I've started going back to extracts since having a kid, I would also be led to believe that dry malt extract is, I don't know if better is the right word, but is less caramelized or caramelizing, and also late addition.
Right. It doesn't stale as fast.
Oh, so that goes back to the fresh ingredient part.
Yeah.
But what as far as the like boiling it to hell and back part? Like, would you agree that dry extract might come out cleaner than liquid? And then what do you think about like late splitting that addition?
Right. It depends on what ingredients you're specifically talking about and what style of beer. I think there's great liquid malt extracts. I think there's great dry malt extracts. It's just going to depend on what you're trying to achieve. I wouldn't worry too much about that because, again, as long as the ingredient you're using is fresh, it's fine. You're talking about subtle differences versus, fermentation flaws. It doesn't matter what ingredients you put in there. If your fermentation isn't good, you're going to have bad beer. If you have some questionable ingredients or your recipe isn't that great, if you ferment it well, it's still going to taste pretty darn good.
So fermentation will chew through what all extracts at 60-minute might make seem kind of thick in other beers, but if it's going to ferment, it's going to find it. It's going to go after it.
Yeah, I'm not saying you won't taste the difference in ingredients,
right?
But that's less critical than the differences in good fermentation versus bad fermentation. That you'll notice.
Yeah, I've noticed since upping the yeast game and the full volume game. And granted, my full volume is still only 3. Like, I'm doing half batches of extract beer. That's because I remember the days of like boiling it down to maple syrup and then diluting it back and being frustrated with it. So yeah, I would say figure out the volume you can truly handle or need or want, and then don't feel like the recipe is the only thing out there, right? Like, you can stagger these things, you can make them bigger, just do the math, which I'm bad at, and get to the end result. All right, Jamil, cheers, bro.
All right, thanks, brother.
No one knows what these two beers are because they didn't watch the other videos yet.